everybody, and welcome back to the Fixing Football podcast, where we fix our beautiful game week by week by going over everything that annoys us and everything that annoys you, and we come up with the fixes for you. That's how we do things here. Our fearless leader, Martin, is not with us tonight, so I, Scott, will be your host, and I'm joined tonight by Liam. Liam, how you doing, mate?
Hello, Scott. Martin will be glad that you mentioned his absenteeism today. We got a bit of trouble for that. I
did fail to reference Martin's absence the last time I was host. I was just too in the zone. I was too in the zone of being the host. The excitement got to me, and it slipped my mind. And by the time I remembered, we were 15 minutes in. So it seemed a bit silly to drag it back at that point. But yeah. But it's just as well, because I've not had a great deal to shout about when it comes to Martin. He's kind of had my number over the last couple of weeks. So it's just as well that I've avoided him. And I've avoided him again today. I'm back fresh off a little week away in New York, which was nice, not very relaxing, but as you know, Liam, I've got to be sent out to these places to go and scope out these World Cup venues and just make sure those Americans are getting ready for us in the summer.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think with Martin, you're referencing the World Cup final win that Arsenal celebrated at the Emirates by beating Chelsea in the League Cup.
Yes, it was a combined World Cup and Champions League final that they beat Chelsea in. There was a pitch invasion while the ball was still in play. There was, substitutes and staff on the pitch. It was a beautiful scene for them to win that. To win that trophy was just marvellous for them.
It was like the Arsenal of old, wasn't it? The celebrating winning North London derbies with it was a throwback to old Arteta before he turned into this super serious I only celebrate when I win titles machine that he's trying to give now. He almost forgot himself for a moment. I actually quite respected that Arsenal being themselves again.
He did. He cracked a smile, which I've not seen him do for a long time. God bless him. So yeah, not really a great deal in terms of joy for Chelsea when it comes to visiting the Emirates Stadium, and hopefully in a couple of weeks that fixes itself. But we had a lot of other football to tackle this weekend, Liam, and I think the best place for us to go, the only place for us to go, I think, to start with, is the Liverpool-Man City game, which I believe was at Anfield, wasn't it? Was it Anfield this time?
Yeah, Anfield, yeah. Where Pep had not, before this game, not won in front of fans and the whole time he's been at Man City. So
was that his first win at Anfield?
First win, yeah, apart from the COVID year.
Yeah, doesn't count. No, just like Liverpool's title in that time does not
Agreed.
Count.
It says a lot about the Anfield crowd, that I think that was Liverpool's first. This much fabled Anfield crowd that just happens to be the year that they weren't there, that they coasted to a title without any anxiety whatsoever.
Brilliant.
I actually do think I was thinking about this when I was watching the game, and we actually will talk about the game in a minute. But I was sat thinking, because they referenced that COVID game a couple of times, and I thought, if it was COVID season now, I think Arsenal wouldn't drop a point.
No.
They're that much better than everyone else, but it's only anxiety really that's holding them back. That's kind of what Liverpool just didn't have to worry about at all. Every game just became a clinic. They just did not need to worry about it. And because they were by far, it was one of those years where City were at a drop off. So they were by far and away the best team in the league. And I just think if it was Arsenal this year, they'd probably get the maximum points allowed, to be honest.
Yeah, 38. Didn't Liverpool go like 27 games winning on the spin or something ridiculous?
One all season, did they? Did they lose one all season?
Fucking
No, I think they lost a cup at the end when it was done.
Yeah, when they'd won it by fucking end of January and no one gave a shit anymore.
Yeah. But I think before that, I think there was like one game they lost pre-COVID, and it was literally right before COVID, if I remember. Was it Nottingham Forest?
Yeah.
Anyway, this game.
Yeah, this game. What did you make of it? I thought it was. I've said I didn't get to watch it live. I've since gone back and watched most of the extended highlights, and I thought, for the most part, Man City it came out as a bit of a smash and grab for City, I thought, in the end, on the balance of the game. Don't know what you thought about it.
It started well, City. They did start well, but I think Liverpool always looked by far the more dangerous, I think. And Ekitike was getting a lot of space. That City defence is very weak, in my opinion. Gay has improved it, but it wasn't hard to. I think it's really, really weak. And I did wonder what has happened to Ruben Diaz for Cousinov to be by far and away Pep's preferred in that left centre-back option. Like, Cousinov went off with concussion and Ruben Diaz came back on. It was only then I just thought, Ruben Diaz, he he was the man. Not it's just funny how quickly a star can fall at Man City. I always think like nowhere else. I think you can be absolutely so far from Pep's plans in almost days. But the game was brilliant. They always are. I mean, it's very, very rare that this game doesn't serve up. Now, these two aren't what they were 3 or 4 years ago when arguably you were watching levels that I think we've only really ever seen of El Clasico, sort of in the sort of late 2000s, where the level was just, it was the best game in the world that you were watching. And I think this game was that 3 or 4 years ago where it was what those players were doing was just like unmatched anywhere else. And they were really pushing each other. They really wanted it. Like, whereas this is a little bit different. I don't think it has those levels. It does have high quality. There are still some really, really good players. I think Ekitike, I've already mentioned him, looked really sharp in this game. As did Szoboszlai, and to be fair, Bernardo Silva from Man City was brilliant as well. But there's just something about these two that they just want to win. I don't know if it is hatred either. I think it's just wanting
really
to
not.
be, because they all know each other. They're all living in Cheshire together. Oh, neighbours. But I think it's just something about this fixture that brings the best out of both of them. And when they're playing against each other, it's not about flying into tackles. It's about putting our best against your best and almost wanting to just outplay the other side. And it became a bit of a basketball match where I think Liverpool can be unlucky to think that they've not won it. But that's just the nature of how open these games are. I mean, what did you get from sort of watching the highlights, Scott?
Yeah, it's kind of similar. It did feel to me that Liverpool were mostly in control of it, although it did take a set piece to get them in the lead. It was one of those weird. It reminded me weirdly of a senior Chelsea performance where there's a lot of control, but the clear cut chances weren't sort of free flowing. The free kick was fucking unbelievable. Fair play to Szoboszlai. He's got an obscenely good technique and seemingly a technique for every occasion. Because I've never seen him hit one of those like knuckleball free kicks before. They've always been sort of like your traditional curlers, but it was a fucking great strike.
It was such a weird free kick in the sense that I was sat there watching it thinking, he's going to score this. Like it felt like he had an I hate that word, but he did feel like the way he stood over it, like, I'm going to score this.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I am the man for the moment. Like,
yeah, he loves it with his new like samurai top knot, and I think he's feeling himself a bit.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
He thinks he's the man.
Yeah, the main character energy, as they like to say, isn't it? He definitely he knows he's having a good season, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he is, to be fair. I'm not as sold on him as we were going back and forth about it a bit in the group chat. I'm not as sold on him as an overall player. I don't think he's bad by any means. I think there may have been a comment around him being the best player in the league, and I can't say I go that far.
Not sure who that would be.
Yeah, who said that? It was a wild, outrageous comment. But I think that he's clearly shown up for Liverpool in big moments this season. And I think when a lot of their other big hitters clearly haven't stepped up, we were saying no Salah this year pretty much. Wirtz has been underwhelming. Isak's been basically nowhere near the first team. I don't know when we're going to see him again. He's kind of been that guy, hasn't he? He's kind of put the team on his back when they needed him. And he's come up trumps. And to be fair, but on the balance of the game, that probably should have been the winning goal, I thought.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting we talk about the best player in the league. And obviously, we're going to get to things that we fix as we now hurtle towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
The Fixing Football podcast and get stuck into an issue that has kept Martin up all night, really.
That's why he's not on the podcast today. Yeah. He's still like hunched over like a whiteboard with there's markers being thrown, there's diagrams, there's all sorts of stuff.
Just the words PGML scratched into his arm. Like in
Harry Potter.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in a minute. But when you talk about the best player in the league, 18 months, 2 years ago, even beginning of this season, I think we'd all agreed that was Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
What's going on? So. What is going on? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's got a goal and assist yesterday.
Yeah.
But at 85 minutes, it was like he wasn't even there.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Liverpool's not a great fixture for him, is it? Especially Liverpool away. I think that's his first goal at Anfield, I think, by all accounts.
As a Man City player, got one when he was at Salzburg.
Right, fair enough. Stat padding for Salzburg, like he did.
Away at Anfield.
Yeah. Yeah, minnows. Playing minnows. He's a weird one, Haaland, isn't he? Because I've seen him have a lot of games like this where he's just sort of on the periphery. He's kind of not really. I remember a few years. Remember when Lukaku had his ill-fated Chelsea return, and there was a game. I think it was against Crystal Palace. He had 9 touches in the whole game, and there was think pieces on it. It was uploaded to Sky.
An athletic long read.
Yeah, there was all sorts of like discourse and discussion about. And I remember Sky Sports uploaded a video of his 9 touches, and it had like a shitload of views. And I was like, okay, it's not great, but it's also like, I was wondering, like, are we that convinced that we've never seen this before? And then I'm sure Haaland's had games where he's had like 6 touches. The difference being he usually gets 2 goals.
Well, that was a lot of the thing about it, wasn't it? In his first 2 years at City, would he get annoyed at being that? Like, it was great for City, but would he be all right with it? And he seems to have been, but I do wonder, because what wasn't who he was at Dortmund. At Dortmund, he was almost this like complete forward type that would drop in, not necessarily to the levels of Kane is at Bayern, but he would properly lead the line, Drogba style, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it's very much on you're living on the edge. I remember when Pep first took over City, there was this problem with Aguero where they were falling out quite a bit. He didn't want Aguero dropping deep, and Aguero had to stay on the line. And there was a point where Aguero might have even left over it. It wasn't as simple.
Nearly came to Chelsea over it.
Yeah, it wasn't that simple. I do wonder if he'll get bored. But to me, his effectiveness does seem to dial down.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that we're saying this about Haaland. Maybe it just goes to show the levels that he's set. That he's sitting on 21 goals at the beginning of February, and we're talking about a player with having a minimal impact or not having as much impact, and that just goes to show the bar that he's set for himself, I guess. But I think I do tend to agree with you. I think as time is going on, he's getting less and less return. I don't know if it's a case that teams are figuring him out. I think he might. I think you hit on something there about boredom could set him with someone like Haaland. Like, if you are just tasked with being on the periphery of the game for most of it, are you going to stay engaged? Okay, you'll be able to stat pad your 30 goals all season. Again, he'll get 4 or 5 against a couple of teams. But is that enough? Is that the kind of player he wants to be?
It's how you're using your resources as well. Because we had a chat pre-pod about the idea of City spending recently, and a lot of it being looked at as transfer fees only, but that's not really what's going on. But you're talking here on someone on exceptional wages, right? If he gets 25 to 30 goals a season, you could look at it and go, he's done his job. But do you not want more from Erling Haaland? Isn't that the point of Erling Haaland? Is that, like, if you didn't have Erling Haaland there, could you spread the goals out in other ways? They won leagues without Erling Haaland. Now they're going to lose 2 in a row with him there. So it's almost like you need him to get those 40, 50s because that's the whole system.
Yeah. If he isn't going to be a 50-goal season striker, what else is he going to bring? Or similar, like you say, do you then want him to then be that Kane, Pogba-esque guy who can literally do and does do everything on the pitch? Set up, do the link-up play, assist, defend even as well.
By the way, I want to be very clear. I think Haaland can do all this. I think this is a system issue. And I think this is an example of City's levels just not being what they were. I think Gary Neville said 80-odd minutes in. I was thinking the same thing. You're looking for Bernardo Silva to step up now. And it's like, are we really still looking for Bernardo Silva to step up here? Like, they've spent $500 million since January last year. And a lot of these players aren't getting a look in.
No.
Are we really looking for Bernardo Silva still?
Apparently so. I mean, Semenyo's done okay since he's gone. But yeah, I think the problem is the gap is so large between Haaland and anyone else in terms of contributions. It's Bernardo Silva can step up all the fuck he wants. He ain't going to bring. He can't possibly bring to the table what other players such as Haaland, when they're on, are going to be able to bring. It's going to be really tricky. But you mentioned earlier an issue that we are hurtling towards.
Yes,
very much in the way that Erling Haaland was hurtling towards goal right at the game, and Dominic Szoboszlai was in hot pursuit. We've had one of the most, I don't know, it was a very fierce reaction, I think is the best way I can describe it to this incident at the end of the game where Ryan Cherky scores basically from the halfway line.
Can I just say, before we go on, a lot of this is Ryan Cherky's fault. Because why couldn't he just kicks it harder?
Yes.
Like, all this gets avoided if he kicks it like a normal person.
Do you think, I think he's trying to play a through ball to Haaland there. Ish. That's kind of why I feel like he doesn't quite go for goal he hits it in the general direction of the net, but I feel like he might be slightly banking on Haaland maybe reaching, because in a flat foot race,
A
Haaland's going to
hurtling
get
tornado of blonde hair running at it.
Yeah, raw meat and fucking raw milk or whatever fucking weird diet
Stinking
is
of
on.
monster.
Yeah, so everyone listening is more than likely, if you've not seen it or you've not seen some discourse about this, I don't know where you've been.
Yeah, I don't know why you're watching us or listening to us before getting involved in that, but go on.
So we've got Ryan Cherky basically scores from the halfway line, and Erling Haaland is trying to run onto the ball, probably to tap it in if he can. And then Dominic Szoboszlai is chasing him. So you have a situation where Szoboszlai grips Haaland by the shirt and drags him behind him, which in any other walk of life is a goal scoring opportunity denied and a red card. But then what happens, because you rightly say the ball's still rolling gradually towards goal and nothing's really, not like the play hasn't stopped. There's enough time there for Haaland to grip Szoboszlai and drag him back as well. So it's a bit of a melee between those two.
Yeah, almost like when people are messing about in like playing five-a-side or something, and like it really was childlike stuff.
Yeah, it was. It's proper Bolton Arena on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Esque levels of performance. It was great to see. I quite enjoyed it. But so the ball eventually trickles in because Haaland and Szoboszlai basically fall over each other. And City think they've got a 3-1 win. Everyone's celebrating. And then there's a bit of a lull appears, and you can kind of see that the officials are discussing something. And eventually what happens is they rule that Dominic Szoboszlai has committed a red card offence. He's denied a clear goal scoring opportunity, and they've ruled out the goal and given a red card to Dominic Szoboszlai. And while it may seem on the surface of it a bit silly that the ball has gone in anyway, City, it's 95th minute or whatever it is, 96th minute, City were already winning the game, and they've then gone and got another goal on top of that.
And they've gone full Arsenal by this point. They're all in the crowd.
Oh god, yeah. The Arteta City DNA is still very much alive. There's a lot of synergy between those two camps, I think, in ways that they don't want to admit. They're all, like you said, they're all sprinting on the pitch, they're popping bottles, they think it's a Champions League final. Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating on one hand, because in the emotion of the game, you're looking at that thinking, that's ridiculous, why have you pulled that back? When the ball's gone in, just allow the goal to be. But having said that, I think the more I've watched it and the more I've looked at it, the less controversial I find in this whole decision. The referee, in my view, has done exactly the right thing. Liam, I think we were doing our preamble before we started recording. I think we're on the same page with this.
Yeah, we got to check before and see if this would be interesting, and we were going to get at it and disagree on it. But I'm quite a rules of rules person, so. Yeah. Like, I very much believe in rules, because without rules, we've just got chaos, right? And don't get me wrong, it was an amazing moment that has been spoiled, right? But I've got a few, before I even get to the referee element, I've got some things that have gone very much under the radar here. Some people that are very much getting away with it. Number one, Alisson Becker. What are you doing?
Yeah.
why are you stayed up there? You've just basically give a goal away for the penalty. And now you just sort of, like, what are you going to do? Like, he sort of hangs around in like centre defensive midfield. Like, just get back in your net. Like, what you do? Like, the chance are gone.
Yeah, he's thinking there's a moment. He's thinking, oh, it's like West Brom away. It's like that game again. I can be the hero.
Yeah, well, you weren't, right? You absolutely, definitely weren't. Because essentially, you now got your best player sent off. Secondly, Szoboszlai, you're not stopping. What are you doing? You're not going to stop that goal. Erling Haaland is through on goal in front of you. It's already, in a way, you've already conceded. Like, the inevitability levels there are like outrageously high. So by fouling him, all you're doing is hindering yourself. It was beyond added time. It was like your red card. If let's say it was a red card, free kick given, which is what happened in the end, I think. You've added an extra minute. You've got an extra 30 seconds. I think even the ref bottled it in the end and just blew up anyway, straight away after anyway. So you're giving yourself an extra minute. Is that worth him not being available for the midweek game when they're 4 points behind in the Champions League race? In my opinion, no, it's not. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, no one thinks of this kind of logical thinking when they're running back chasing Erling Haaland. So I get that. So
Yeah.
them two are getting away with it in my head. But then let's take the decision into mind. Once he fouls him, in my view, it should have stopped there because it might have. I think it's been a slight change in interpretation. But when I did my refs course when I was younger, as soon as there's a red card, you have to stop for basically to stop this happening. Because when a red card happens, that person almost becomes a rogue agent then. Because theoretically, they can almost do whatever they want because they've already you've committed such a blatant red card. Theoretically, he could then go and do anything because he's already been red carded. So you should be stopping it then. But I believe that when a goal is almost inevitable, there is a little bit of leeway just to see if it goes in, right? And a la handballs on the line kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but as soon as Haaland then fouls him back, then it's like, well, no, you can't. They're not the same incident. These are two separate fouls. And I get it that it kind of worked out in the end, but these rules exist for a reason, right? The referee's there not to make the rules up as he goes along, despite what some people seem to think they do. They're there just to apply the rules, and the rules exist for a reason. I want my referees to not be making it about them and just simply the rules. Now, sometimes that will mean that they make unpopular decisions, and no one liked it, right? I didn't like it. No one liked it. But they're not there to go, well, you know what? It's not too bad in the end. They scored anyway. The game finished 2-1 and not 3-1. And that could matter later in the year.
Yeah, it could. And you can imagine if, let's say, I've seen a few people say, what will City think if they lose the title by goal difference by 1 goal? But then you can also put that on the inverse and say, what would Arsenal think if they lost the title by a goal and that was the 1 goal and it should have been ruled out? Like, you can't. Like, I think
if whoever's making that argument about Man City is exactly saying why we should do it, because you should have let it go on vibes then, but the actual rules shouldn't apply.
Yeah, just because it reminds me a bit of. Do you remember when Josh King had his goal disallowed against Chelsea for Fulham earlier in the season? There was like the big hoo-ha, and he got like
the Sanderberg handball in the run-up, was it?
Yeah, it was. I think there was a foul on Trevor Chalobah, perhaps. Maybe something happened.
Yeah.
So, and then there was like, but he, like the whole discourse around it, this should have been given was, it would have been his first goal in his 18. That was it was like, what do you mean it should have just been given? Like, it was included in goal of the month and all this fucking nonsense. And he won Fulham's goal of the month that month.
Scott, you're getting into, honestly, right? It's for fixing football, right? Fix sentimentality, right? Because ultimately, what people think fair is what they want to happen. Everything being fair often means that what you don't want to happen happens, because generally speaking, the bigger, better thing generally will win, because it sometimes takes outside variables to stop things happening. And I remember when this sort of dawned on me, right? And it was when Liverpool went out of the cup against Plymouth, maybe last year, the year before, right? Oh no, it was the year before. They played Shrewsbury away, and I think they won that game, but they had a goal that was offside scored against them. And I remember, it was on ITV, and I can't remember if it was on Core Comms, but I remember sitting there thinking, what are you talking about? And he basically said, isn't it refreshing, though, that VAR didn't get in the way of that moment? And I thought, goal was offside.
Yeah. So, no, it's not good.
And it basically kind of showed up what, like, football discourse is there. And it's basically, they want to see what they want to happen. It was good because it meant that the games were exciting. It wasn't fair. It was the opposite of fair. It was an absolute robbery of a decision. It was like 2 yards offside. The kind of decision that I see week in, week out of League One. And I come in here and you lot moan about VAR. I'm like, did you see Bolton's handball at the weekend? honestly, I ran down the steps screaming to the linesman, like, how the fuck have you missed that? Like, it was a good. Anyone who's not seen this image, honestly, I have never seen live a more wrong decision in my life. And I am the most placid when it comes to referee decisions, but I was like, it really gave me a headache watching it.
Was that like, the goalkeeper outside the box?
Yeah.
One? Yeah. Fuck you hell.
2 yards, Scott. It's good. And the third was in line, and they went, no. And I went, what do you mean, no? Like, I thought he was offside, and he was just picking it up. I didn't realise the ball was live. Like, I honestly don't understand how someone could be so. Anyway, going back to VAR and fairness, everything had been applied from what people need to remember, and we need to get rid of. And I don't think pundits help. Gary Neville, ref, you've ruined a big moment. You're not helping. Like, that isn't helping, because ultimately I could see that it was the right decision, but I also could see that it was a bit shit, and it felt it felt dirty, it felt wrong. But these rules exist for a reason.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit like if you're on a yellow and then let's say then you score a 98th minute winner, and you then take your shirt off and you get a second yellow and you get sent off and you miss the next big game. That shouldn't. We all agree that's a bit shit, and you should be able to like express that emotion and jump in the crowd and fucking do whatever. But that's a rule there for a reason. For whatever reason it is, it might be a stupid one, but it's part of the game.
I think it was because of sponsors, wasn't it? People putting sponsors under the shirts. I think that's what the reason that they did it. I might be wrong with that, but I think it is that.
I could be making this up. I thought it was because I think it was Diego Forlan once threw his shirt into the crowd after a goal, and it took that long for him to get a shirt back. That they just, because like whoever, a bit like when you kick a ball in and the fans just won't give it, but there's fucking millions of balls all around the ground. I remember there was like a big delay because Forlan was looking for a shirt. Maybe slightly before there was every player had 25 replacement shirts.
I don't remember him scoring for Man United.
I think that's probably why he took his shirt off, because it was the one goal that he did score, and he unleashed the fucking demon. But yeah, again, it's back to that thing that you're saying, though, is the rules need to be applied fairly. And that means that sometimes your club and your moment is going to get fucked over and taken away. That's just how it goes over a long enough period of time. All of our clubs will have something taken away from us, or will be fucked over, or something or other, or we'll feel aggrieved that the rules have been applied in that situation.
But let's be completely straight as well. And I would get rid of VAR, I think. But I think it's hard to get rid of it now, because the genie's out the bottle, and then you can't really put it back in. But VAR was correct, because the referee gave that goal and then VAR intervened. So again, for all the mourning about VAR worked, didn't it? Because I think everyone now agrees that it's been correctly applied. So we're, well done to VAR as far as I'm concerned. This is what we brought it in for, to stop the injustices.
Yeah, and again, Arsenal fans would have been, and Martin, ironically, would have been the first person, if City ended up winning the title by a single goal, and that was the one goal that you could pinpoint it to, you can just imagine the PGMOL scandal that would be unearthed at Martin's house.
And exactly, and it can come down to one goal. We all remember the line of sight, and when Liverpool scored the goal against Man City, like 3 or 4 weeks for the end, and it was like you could see the ball underneath. But so it can. These margins can happen.
Yeah, they can, and they do, and this is why it's in place. So I think as a fix, we've actually fixed everyone needs to chill out. It's not. It would have been an amazing moment. It would have been a beautiful finish to the game, but it also would have been unfair and wrong. And surely it's better to be unfair. It's better to be right and a bit of a party pooper than just going on vibes, giving everyone goals and fucking points where they don't need them, just because it would be nice.
Exactly. And I'm sure no one would want to accuse Man City of breaking any rules. So I'm sure Man City were really pleased the rules were applied properly, and they, no one can make any kind of singing and dancing about it.
Exactly. So. Isn't it nice? City are playing by the rules. No one can accuse them of any wrongdoing whatsoever.
No, and we would never do that.
No, never in a million years. I think what we'll do, we'll leave it there. We'll have a short break, and then we'll come back for the second part. And we are back. So, something that caught my eye over the weekend is that there was another big rivalry game on over the weekend, dubbed the M23 Derby, which, in my personal opinion, you cannot name a rivalry after a section of motorway or road network in the UK. In my opinion, I think you need to be a little bit more imaginative. But the M23 Derby between Brighton and Crystal Palace took place over the weekend, and Brighton came up short. They lost. I think it was 1-0 to Palace in the end. And it got me looking a bit further at Brighton, because I thought, it just kind of struck me. I thought, these lot don't seem to have won for a while. And I was right. I think they've won 1 in 12, I think you maybe corrected me on earlier, Liam. Is that right?
Yeah,
I think
12? I think that was only Burnley at home as well. And
Jeez.
Everyone beats Burnley, don't they?
Yeah, they do, unfortunately. My lofty predictions for Burnley, sadly, don't look very, very promising at the moment. But Yeah, so it got me looking at Brighton. I was like, because they're usually fighting more. They're kind of in the same place, but the reverse. Like the 14th, they're usually in the 7th or the 6th or the 8th. They're usually in that upper reaches of the table, knocking on the door for a European place. And it just got me wondering, like, what's happened here? And we then started to talk about it, and it got us onto a little bit of a tangent about some other clubs that may have suffered from a similar affliction. And I think it got us to think about and wanting to have a quick chat about. It's kind of the inevitability of what happens to the selling club. This kind of like boom and bust mentality, or this phenomenon that happens. Because Brighton have been quite famous in recent years for selling a lot of players for a hell of a lot of money, almost all of them to Chelsea for exorbitant amounts of cash.
Yeah.
And this whole model, it's not something unique to Brighton. The whole finding players from the middle of nowhere, bringing them to the forefront, signing them for cheap and selling them on for massive money. We've seen other clubs do this. We've seen Wolves do it. We've seen Southampton do it. We've seen a couple of people do it. And Brighton kind of seem to be, if they're not careful, they could be on a bit of a slippery slope here because they're kind of gradually tumbling down the league. And I do wonder if we've now reached that tipping point that Wolves reached and that Southampton reached, that there's always that one player too many that you sell. You're able to get away with it for a while, like Wolves, they sold Ruben Neves, they sold João Moutinho, they sold Pedro Neto, and they kind of got away with it a little bit. And then
Brentford, I'd say Brentford this summer have done something similar. So they've sold Wisa, others that I can't name off the top of my head.
yeah, Brian Mbeumo.
Brian Mbeumo.
I thought Bournemouth might go that way as well. They've done a little bit better.
Dean Huyson as well.
Yeah, Zabani went as well. Kirkes went. They had a full clear out of the whole system, and Kepa went as well. But he's less said about Kepa, the better. So yeah, it just got us chatting. Something that I think is worth touching on. This model that works and injects a shitload of money into these clubs, and Brighton in particular, they've made an absolute gold mine, mostly out of Chelsea, to be perfectly blunt, around finding these players and selling them on for big money. But there is only, and I'd not really seen a club beat this yet. There's only really so long that you can do this for, and I just wonder how do you stop this rot of if you're known in the game as a selling club, and you're going to find, and I think Carlos Baliba was probably the next one up, who was going to be on the chopping block, and they were trying to get 100 million.
Mitoma as well, I'd say.
Mitoma could be. I think Mitoma's a bit of a weird one. I feel like his time may have gone because I think he's 27 or 8 now. So I feel like they might have just missed. I think he got an injury. He got quite a bad injury at probably the year they probably would have sold him.
Yeah, Lamptey was similar, wasn't he?
Yeah, we sold him to Brighton, which was a weird instance of business going the other way. And it was kind of, he looked like he was going to go on and be the next thing, and it just didn't. His career never quite took off. I'm not actually quite sure where he is now. Tariq Lamptey, God bless him.
Is he at Strasbourg? Is he gone full? Is it a blue core full circle?
That would be amazing if you've exited the blue core system only to find your way back at it.
You can never escape the blue core.
Is it Fiorentina?
Fiorentina.
That's random.
Good luck, Tariq.
Good luck, Tariq. So I thought it was an interesting topic for us to touch on because we're seeing one of a club that's kind of become a bit of a Premier League mainstay. Brighton, they've been in the league now for, is it 10 years? I don't know if it's as long as 10 years.
I think it's 9, but we'll play it safe. Yeah, I think it's 9.
Yeah, so they've been around a long time, but they could be. And you look at Wolves now. Wolves are on 8 points. They're in the doldrums. They're in the absolute mud, as we say. And that has kind of come, but only 3 years ago, we were talking about Wolves being European contenders. They were building a really solid team with the likes of Ruben Neves, João Moutinho, Connor Cody.
The Mendes stable, if you will.
Yeah, the Mendes connection was working well, and I don't know if that's still going on and he just doesn't care about them anymore, or I don't know what's happening I don't know where good old Jorge's got to. But yeah, it just made me wonder, is there a way to get out of that kind of spiral once you've started it? And I don't know if we've seen a club do that yet.
I think ultimately, I don't think you can get out of it, because ultimately, if you keep going after these players of a certain age, so if you're looking for talent under 23 and they do flourish, I think even if you want to, you almost can't avoid this trap. I think it's just the nature of the pond. There's always a bigger fish. I do think it is unavoidable. I think some teams throw themselves at the younger age bracket more. And I think you've named the big serial offenders, and a lot of these have links to people that are in the gambling industry. like Matthew Benham and
Oh, the irony.
Tony Bloom, yeah. But I don't think it's a coincidence, right? And I think that, when you look at Tony Bloom's other clubs like USG and Hearts that are both flying at the moment, they seem more natural places where you can get far greater returns in terms of league position than maybe in the Premier League. I think the problem with this model, and I think Southampton were a great wing of this, obviously they sold everyone to Liverpool. That Liverpool were their Chelsea.
Yeah, before Brighton was Brighton, Southampton were there.
Yeah. And basically creating Liverpool into title winners, essentially.
Yeah.
The club before they then went and bought from elsewhere. But anyway,
yeah,
I think the issue is replication. Because the problem is, in the Premier League, people have said this before, but it is a tough league. You need to be bringing in people that can maintain those levels. And I think the problem is you got to keep replicating. You got to keep going back to the well. And I don't think for a lot of these clubs, they're not the only show in town anymore. I think a lot of people now are onto data. People have mentioned data before when it comes to transfers, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's just getting tougher. I think the well's getting drier, and I think having to sustain, unless you start to look at more established Premier League players, which I think Fulham maybe prefer to do their business with, they tend to look at far more established people like Sander Berge going in for Paulinho. Like they're looking at more proven quality that they can get from elsewhere. I think you are going to always have this threat. And the problem is if you sell too many and you're not able to replicate, then you end up in trouble. So I think Brighton, the ones that they sold this summer, by looking at João Pedro, like that was their main, if only, goal threat last season.
Yeah. I think even he struggled a bit. Not struggled from open play, but he was there was a big sort of stain against his name coming into Chelsea that he could only take penalties, and that was like where we got a lot of his goals. But that speaks to a bigger problem that Brighton probably have around chance creation, and the goals are starting to dry up a little bit.
100%. And I don't think, don't get me wrong, sometimes it goes the other way, right? So Brentford had a big sell in summer. You mentioned all the players Brentford sold earlier, but they've landed on some good players like Wataru. Obviously Thiago, who you mentioned as a potential player of the season, is back from injury and scoring goals. So the replication is there. They've been able to do it again. But then you worry how long that can carry on. And it's all of a sudden, it's when you get the wrong crop, the wrong ones come in, it can turn very quickly. Like Wolves, like Southampton. And there have been quite a few others that have tried this in the past. So I think it is, that's why I think we were talking about it being a boom and bust beforehand. I think I think this lends itself to the idea you have to have some experience and some players that maybe stick around a little bit longer. You maybe try and have 3 or 4 players that are gonna stick. Or you do what Brentford have done, what Sunderland done, and you look for your Granit Xhaka types to come in and help it. You look for your Jordan Henderson types to really come and steady the ship as well.
Yeah. I think in an ideal world, if you could make all the chess pieces fall where you wanted them to, you'd almost like Brighton, when they sold a Caicedo, they then wouldn't sell their next defensive midfielder. The next big pot of money they would drop on would be from elsewhere on the pitch, which I think may have worked out for them slightly. But I think they know they then want to sell Belieber is the next one. And they want to get 100 million quid for him. He's been absolutely shocking this season, by the way. So I think they're a bit gutted now that they probably couldn't get 100 million for him in the summer, because I don't think Man United will be back at the table. Certainly not for that kind of money. And that's the other risk, isn't it? If you don't manage to pull the deal off at the right time, his value is going to go through the floor.
Yeah, and you're trying to control too much, I think, with that as well. Like the idea, well, we sold one, we don't want to sell the other. But like, what happens is there's good players left at the club that end up stood around like that John Travolta meme. Like that's that was what Mateta turned into. This like all of a sudden it's like, actually no, you've sold Elise, Eze, you've got Gay going. I'm not fucking staying. Like, no, JP, we want you to go in the summer. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Or Adam Wharton seems to be playing ball, but you're trying to that's a lot of personalities to control to get the best, most desired outcome for you. You're trying to control the other club's negotiation, your player playing ball, being able to bring the replacement in at the right time. It's a lot of chess pieces you're trying to get right to keep that tap going.
Yeah, you need a lot to go your way, don't you, for this to be maybe if you stumble upon the right group of players and maybe you think, fuck it, we can make a few quid here. and we've kind of just stumbled into it, use that money, buy a big dog, and then you move on. I think it's interesting because we started talking a little bit about Chelsea when we was talking about this, because Chelsea get this accusation of now being a selling club. Pundits who I don't hold in a great deal of regard seem to like to parrot this, but there's a perception of Chelsea that we're now Brighton, we're now this kind of selling club because we have a fairly high turnover of players, and I think there is maybe an element of that where you can maybe see it that way, but I think the one big difference there, and something that I think this may be proving to be not the exception to the model, because I don't think there's actually any proof of what Chelsea's model really is yet. I don't think I don't think we can really say either way. And what happens to certain players will determine this, I think. But we've not done yet what Brighton have done, what Wolves have done, and those like crown jewels of our team, we've not sold them. So I'd probably say you got Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Colwill. Maybe you could put Estevao in there as well. I know he's only just joined, but he's probably in that group as well. If we sold one of those, Reece James as well, throw in there. If we sold one of those, I would then be quite happy to accept that we've now thrown our lot in with the Brightons of the world and the Wolveses and the Southamptons, and that's the way that we see the business model, because they are massive investments and they're also our best players by a long, long way. But what I think is more likely to happen with us is that we will and we talked about this with Enzo Fernandez, is like, what's the business model approach to Enzo Fernandez? You spent over 100 million on him. It's extremely unlikely you're ever going to get that back. Not as a knock to Enzo Fernandez, but
it's a big fee. Like, it's just a big.
It's a lot of cash.
Yeah, exactly. You're in top 10 record levels.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the one difference maybe there is the big key players, the crown jewels. I think the idea is that we keep those and we interchange the pieces around them until we hit on some other crown jewels, and eventually you've got 11 amazing players. I think that's the way to go. And I think maybe that's the only way that you can, but then that takes a club maybe with the kind of profile that Chelsea are or Chelsea have to pull that off. Could a Brighton do it that way? And I don't know, be a lot trickier for them,
yeah,
I think.
I mean, the biggest issue for this is, like, is it good for the fans? I don't want to get too Henry Winter. Has anyone thought about the fans, right? That's all that guy ever says. It does my head in. But anyway, should there be a limit on domestic transfers, do you think? Or do you think that would be an issue for the Premier League?
A limit on domestic transfers? I think it's a big issue for the Premier League to a degree, because no one else has the money to buy these players from other Premier League clubs other than Premier League clubs. I think we've seen a massive drop-off in players going abroad. And I think it's simply down to the fact that the Juventuses of the world, who used to break world records, and the Inter Milans, the AC Milans, they don't really. There's only a couple of clubs not in England who can really sit at the big boy table and pay big boy money.
Well, this is a good example, right? Because Juventus, I heard today, would link with Sandro Tonali, and I just thought, good luck. Good luck getting Tonali at Newcastle.
Save money. I mean, I think the only thing I can ever see with Italian players, they seem to like going back there. Maybe he would be willing to do a bit of a deal on his contracts or whatever, but realistically, he's probably not going to do that.
They're quite persuasive, Italian owners, can't they?
Yeah. So remember, Berlusconi was quite persuasive in his own way, wasn't he? He had ways of making people join the club.
Offers that can't be refused.
Yeah, so I don't know if that could. I mean, I'd like to see more players go abroad on that note. Like, if we could somehow limit that and get players going a bit more overseas, but I think realistically, like you said, the genie's out the bottle on that. The money is far too great in the Premier League for anybody else to really get a seat at the table until another league cracks the revenue model the way the Premier League has.
So it's unfixable, is what we're saying.
I think you have to. I think it's. Yeah, you're right. To a degree. I think the way that people do it now is unfixable. I think you kind of have to do this, selling a lot of your players model when you have when you get a bit of a lucky crop, and if you are then somewhat beholden to the food chain of the Premier League, sometimes it just is what it is. I think making it a long-term business model is probably not a wise idea, because you are eventually going to get relegated, because it only goes that way.
Everything dies, is basically what you're saying, Scott.
Yeah, life goes. It's a circle of life, as they say.
Fair enough.
Life finds a way. But speaking of life finding a way, your club, the club that gives you life, Bolton Wanderers.
Yeah, it didn't really work that, but yeah, go on.
Finding
Good
a
try.
way. I'm trying to find a segue.
I like that you tried. We are finding a way, though, to win games, to be fair. I'll nearly lose games this weekend.
Yeah, it was tight one, wasn't it?
Honestly, right? Obviously, our season has been defined with last-minute goals this season, which you'd think is exciting, but after a bit, you're like, I would like to coast. And we went 3-0 up in this game, and for once, I felt like I could relax. But I come up for second half reasonably early. I am bad for missing the first 5-10 minutes of halves. And within a blink of an eye, we're at 3-2 and hanging on again. And it's just, we seem to have got into a groove of winning, and we seem to be grinding out results. And we are playing a lot better. We just seem to leak goals. But anyway, what matters is we're on form, and we're coming in good at a good time of the season. When the chips are down, we seem to be starting to really get into a really good, rich vein of form. And we've got the biggest game of the season this weekend, away at Lincoln City.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I don't want to say turn into Pep. If we lose this, it's done. Which he only said after the game. To be fair, I never didn't say that before. Interestingly, but it's very hard for us if we don't win this game, because then it goes to 3 points with a game in hand for Lincoln. So
yeah,
it gets tricky. So actually, fuck it. Yeah, we have to win. Yeah, it's a must-win game. If we lose this, it's the end of the world, and Schumacher out. Football is over.
Yeah.
League One again. League One again. League One again. Ole, ole. So yeah, massive game.
It needs you. I think you boys are in that. I think you mentioned it on the podcast last week of how an unusually long stint in League One for Bolton this has been in terms of in general teams that are up or down. Not many teams sort of hang around as long as you have, and it's it's getting to that point where
not many teams are as good as us either. I'm not just saying that. Like, we are a big fish in that league, and it's not. I'm not proud of this fact. Like, these stadiums are like places I used to play at when I was a 15-year-old, right? So I'm not proud of this fact. It just is what it is. But it's unusual how long we've been at this level. So we really need to win and finally get out of this league and face the likes of Oxford United, where we belong.
Yeah.
In the Championship.
Especially with the mighty Stockport snapping at your heels, game in hand on Bolton as well.
Yeah. I mean, they could have 2 games on Nick catching us, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah, they are there. They do exist. They have got a game in hand as well.
In 4th in the playoffs, I'm quite happy with that. Louis Barry's back. Tonto Olaf is back. The band's back. It feels like Harry Redknapp getting his team back together. Seeing everything that came in on deadline day, it was bloody wonderful. So we'll see what happens there. My other team, Chelsea, my actual team, I feel like we're also in a groove of winning, which is good. There's worse grooves to be in than winning football matches, and we've also won. You boys have won 4 on the spin now, and so have we. So since Rossini's come in, he's won every game.
Are you
in the league?
So on a scale to Paul Merson loving him to Rory Jennings saying he's the worst appointment in Premier League managerial history, where are you on the Rosenior scale?
On the Roseniorometer.
It is Rosenior, isn't it? That's he's been very. Was it Rosenior?
The thing
he
is,
made a point of saying, didn't he?
No, do you know what? This is a weird point about Liam Rosenior, that someone asked him this question, and I've noticed that this is a bit of a theme. Someone asks him a question, and he gives whatever answer he gives, like the answer that they were looking for, and they will say, "Oh, he's been banging on about that again." It's like people keep asking him these questions in the interviews.
This is completely off piece. This happened to me on Twitter like 3 weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned this right.
Go on.
I do a little bit of I do a little bit of like comment for Football League World, which is probably the biggest sort of publication for Football League sort of news, and really good. But they asked me for comment on some Bolton Wanderers stuff. So anyway, about 3 weeks ago, they messaged me. What do you think, Liam? Should Bolton sign Ryan Hardy? It's like, yeah, I think Ryan Hardy's a good striker. I think that's exactly the kind of Calais bit work with Schumacher before at Plymouth and got promoted, was, prolific in that season. Yeah, they should. And about a week later, out of nowhere, get a work meeting, and my phone's lit up with like calling me a specky loser and all that. And I'm like, I thought, what if I done now? Was my instinct. Like, have I got pissed and tweeted again? But no, basically what happened is some random aggregate site, and I've heard David Ornstein talk about this. It never actually happened to me. Obviously, why would it? But some random aggregate site had built up Bolton Wanderers fan pundit Liam O'Hara links Ryan Hardy to Bolton Wanderers. And honestly, the amount of abuse I was getting for like calling myself a fan pundit, apparently. I was absolutely stitched up by the internet bots again.
Man, the Football League's biggest publication dropping you in it.
Well, no, it was some random other one. Like,
someone just glommed onto their thing.
Well, yeah, it's just like some aggregate bot thing.
Fan pundit Liam O'Hara.
I've heard Ornstein talking about that, saying, but whenever he talks, he's like, just if any aggregate bots pick it, I'm not, like, he makes a point of saying it whenever he's talking on podcast. I've heard him saying this. I always wondered why. And this must be why. It's just random bots just picking up your news, scraping the data of transcripts and stuff. And just
saying you've said all this mad shit that you've not said.
Yeah. And all I did was, Bolton probably should sign Ryan Hardy. He's pretty good in. So anyway, let's carry on with Liam Rossenia.
Yeah, someone asked him, and then he said, "This is how my dad would want you to pronounce it, but I don't care." It was his exact words: "Is I don't care." And now it's just and it was the same with like the whole shouting at Arsenal staff just before the semi-final kicked off because they were doing some warm-up shit in our half, and he sort of told them to fuck off.
I saw a bit about this, but I didn't see too much about it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, he basically they were in Chelsea's half warming up, and he just told them to fucking get out of it. Basically, whether he's out of order there, I don't know. But someone asked him.
Was it, out of curiosity, I didn't see it. Was it players or was it a goalkeeper and goalkeeper coach?
It was like, I think it was a goalkeeper coach.
Then he is out of order. Literally everyone does that. What's he on about?
I don't know.
But go on.
The point being, he gets asked about these things, and then people say, "Oh, look at fucking Liam. He's going on about him again. He can't shut up," and he just gets asked. He's just doing his fucking job.
Just aging men.
He's aging men. And it's working so far. One thing, so on the Rossini-ometer, as to where I sit, I was very much in the Jennings camp when we hired him. It was just underwhelming a little more than anything else. I didn't really have a great deal to say about his managerial skill because I didn't really know a great deal about. The only thing I could base it on is how well have Strasbourg done, and he got them would have got them into the Europa League, I think, if not for, a 90th minute penalty on the final day of the season or something. So going on that, I was like, okay, he's clearly done something right there, but the levels are massively different. And the whole noise around Maresca leaving, it just left a bit of a sour taste. And then this guy comes in, like, who the fuck's this guy? So it was kind of, but as time goes on, you settle down a bit, you calm down, and you think, you know what, I'll just see what happens. Either way, it will come out in the wash. He'll either be shit or he'll do an half decent job for us. And so far, he's kind of winning me over a little bit in the sense of I'm not seeing massive amounts of difference tactically. And I think that's just because since he's come in, he's had 2-3 games a week, and he's probably not really had a great deal of time to do anything.
Wasn't that the whole point of hiring him, though? Isn't that the whole point of why he got picked for Strasbourg in the first place, is because he was very tactically similar? And it's always a Maresca got picked in the first place because he fit the tactics that I can't remember what your people in your board are called.
Yeah.
Whatever your board people are called.
Yeah.
Military directors that you've got, they've already picked how you're playing.
To a degree, yeah. I think most of these like sporting structures, they have an idea of all this shit that you hear about, the Spurs way, the West Ham way. There's something in that. Whether it's bullshit or not is another story.
It's all about Ajax, isn't it? The Ajax 4-3-3 with Cruyff. It all comes down to that idea, innit? Of if you build the whole town and community playing in that certain way, that anyone can go into the team and play it.
Exactly.
Total football kind of thing, innit?
Yeah. So I think whether you think that's a good plan or a bad plan, that is the plan. So I think you're absolutely right there. And I think I think that Rossini will probably have some slightly different things that he wants to do with the Maresca. I don't think we'll probably won't see that until next season. But so far, he's had 5 Premier League games to manage, and he's won them all. And he's had 2 Champions League games to manage, and he's won them both. And the only 2 games he's failed in are the semi-finals against Arsenal, which I don't think Arsenal really brought anything that special to the table. In the first leg, 2 of their goals were absolute gifts.
Yeah, but they're just better than you, aren't they? Like, you can. Exactly. It's an undersaid thing in football that it's okay to lose to people that are better than you. It's when you lose to people that aren't better than you, that's more of a problem.
Yeah. So if Arsenal are on course to win the league at a canter at this rate, so lose it if they're the only team that you really struggle against. I can live with that. That's as much as my pride would love us to absolutely smash Arsenal on the 1st of March. I can be realistic enough and think that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not like they walked all over you either, is it?
Yeah, exactly. We've played them 3 times this season. We've probably been the better team in 2 of those games, I think. Just not as good as them, if that makes any sense at all.
You could be better than them and they beat you. Like, that's because of the way they play. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I actually like one thing I've liked to see is his whole aging men thing seems to work. Like the players seem to like him.
Well, he's a young squad, innit?
Yeah.
So they do need that aging. That isn't the youngest squad in Premier League history. So
It is. So everyone said that we needed experience, and then we literally get the manager.
The manager, yeah, the manager.
It's still not good enough for people. So I don't know what people want anymore. But I think the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see, because new manager bounces is a real thing. We know that this can happen. It will be nice to see but we've also had a run of games that you would probably on paper expect us to win. We've beaten West Ham, Palace, Wolves, a couple of others. We've got Leeds coming up on Tuesday.
Ultimately, again, it sounds easy to say that, but when you're stringing those together, that's different. Like, none of these are givens, even though you should win every one of those games as a separate thing. That's just not how football works. Yeah. Like, that's a sequence of tough games.
Yeah, to win 5 games in a row in the Premier League is good. Like, by any stretch, no matter who the opposition is, that is a good.
Yeah, I agree completely.
So, and we've got Leeds tomorrow night. That'll be a bit. I mean, if we can get a result against Leeds, because Leeds fucking battered us when we last played them. They showed us up. So I think that'll be a game where I think a few fans who might still be on the fence with him, if he can then go and get some revenge against a bitter rival, I think that's where he might start. And then then after that, our run is quite tricky. He'll
start winning over the Sheridan Massive, will he?
Yeah, the Matthew Harding lower. They'll be singing his name. They'll bloody love him. And to be fair, the away fans seem to really like him as well. I mean, the away fans typically get behind the squad no matter what, but I think he's going to gradually, and it's ultimately going to come down to if he gets us in the Champions League and maybe can do some. To be fair, he's even got a shot at winning the Champions League. Every time we've won it, it's because a random's come in mid-season and won it for us after joining us in January. Just seems to be what we do. So he's still got a Champions League to play for. The FA Cup's still live. We've got a decent draw against Hull, so we could easily get through to the latter stages of the FA Cup. We will see. But so far, he's won every game, bar the Arsenal one. So
it's not a 5 fronts year, but who knows what you can get.
There are now three to fight on. I think mathematically we can still catch Arsenal, but
okay, fair enough.
Don't think it's going to happen.
Right, should we leave it there, Scott?
I think we should. I think the manager, long may he reign. But no, we will leave it there. That's it for today's episode. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. And please, as always, like, share and subscribe to the podcast. It really, really helps us out. And we want you all to join in the journey, join in the discussion and engage with us a bit. It's all good fun.
Feel free to comment alongside Ash's mum on there as well.
Yeah, we like Ash's mum. Ash's mum is one of our regular commenters and contributors, big West Ham fan. So if you are fellow West Ham fans, or if you just hate West Ham, just get involved and have a chit chat.
Or if you want to, say West Ham, got what they wish for and all that kind of stuff, feel free to say that as on there as well.
Well, Liam, thanks very much for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, and you, Scott.
We'll see you all next week.